Okay, I did it again. I interrupted you. But it is time to get our presentation going. So first of all, I want to tell you welcome again for our January Chamber breakfast, sponsored by Pacific Power. So let's not forget them as a sponsor. We have a little booth for them, if you will, on the left side of your screen there, little sponsor area. And if you click on their logo there, it'll actually take you to their website. They have been steadfast in this. When we were doing everything virtually when we first started this, it was time to renew sponsorships, and they did not hesitate. In fact, they called me up and said, we're a couple months early here. Can we just write you a check now? We really want to sponsor this. We don't care how you're doing it, but so thanks to the Pacific Power. They are also the presenting sponsor for our chamber banquet every year, including this year, which is happening on Saturday. So I'll bring Bailey on in a little bit and have her give you some details on what the banquet's going to look like, but it is going to be super fun. So I don't want you to miss that. Meanwhile, we have a few announcements. Susan Peterson from KMUN just put in the chat over there that how to get community announcements on their website. And so do check that chat out over there. So go log on to coastradio.org, click on the community calendar box, submit your event. So make sure your calendar is there, and check and put it on ours too. Get it on all of these calendars, and that way more people see it. In both cases, I'm going to suggest that as things change, because they do, don't forget that anything you put on the calendar, go back and correct it. Whether it's now it's virtual, or we moved the date, or we don't get to do it this year. Don't leave those events out there, because what happens is we or Coast Community Radio will get a call saying, well, your calendar says this is happening. What do you know about it? So keep those up to date. But make sure you get stuff out there. Get it to us. Get it to Coast Radio. Thanks, Susan, for posting that. I'm going to bring Jerry up here right now, I think, to tell us about new members before we bring Henry up to do his presentation. So
there we go. Camera on, mic on. Here we go. So good morning, everybody. I have good news. We've got new members, and we're excited about that. Let's start off. We got Gaetano's Market and Deli. It's going to be opening in a couple of weeks. They're going to be on the corner of 11th and Commercial, and we're excited to have them. That's Matthew and Rachel Gaetano and Julie Hoffman, and it's an Italian-style deli. It's going to be great for the city. I look forward to seeing them come in. Plaza Jalisco, Jesus Gomez, the owner, and Jesus is back in the fold. Jesus was a member some years ago, and he's back with us, and we're really glad that he is. He's on the corner of 8th and Marine Drive. Navigate Tax and Accounting is a new member. That's Stacy Sebastian is the owner. Fight Club Guided Fishing, that's Jay Daly is the owner. So if you want to get out and do some fishing and a guided fishing trip, he's the guy to go talk to. New member, we're excited to have him. Skanska USA Building. You've noticed all the building that's been going on for all of our schools in the area, both in Warrenton and over here in Astoria. That is Skanska USA Building, a large company. We have a local representative. Her name is Tracy Brocky, and we're excited to have her on board. Great member. The Recovery Village, Ridgefield, and that's in Ridgefield, Washington. It's a recovery village, and that's Jordan Katz. Another new member is Barbara Blue. She's an individual member, and she's right here in Astoria. So a lot of new members again. It just keeps going. We are excited about that. In this time right now, what we have, and we're seeing new members join the chamber. It's exciting to see that we have our economy and we have our commitment to the community continuing to build, and that's a great thing. We're really excited about that, and we want to encourage everybody to welcome these members. I also want to encourage everybody to, if you haven't gone into your landing page, David was just talking about updating your calendar. If you haven't gone into your landing page for a while and you're a member, we encourage you to go back and revisit that. Make sure that all the information that's in there is updated as well. A lot of times we put things in there and it's changed, so we want to update that. And then there's some things you want to add to that. It's the ability to be able to tell your story to other members and to those that are looking at the website. So call me if you need any help with that. And don't forget to take advantage of job postings. If you need some employment, if you have some employment needs, be sure and check that out. You can put in job postings on that site. And then lastly, we have if you have some great deals, if you have some things going on and you want to let other members know about a percentage off or some things that you want to let them know about, you can put that in member-to-member deals. So a lot of neat stuff going on. Dave, back to you.
Yep. One of those member-to-member deals we just added yesterday, which was Slurpalicious. Remember, they did a business after hours for us, the food ordering app, and now delivery. So they're waiving the delivery setup fee for restaurants that are members that want to participate in that. So
get a hold of Candy Lou.
Yeah. Just another way for us to support our local restaurants is through that app. It's really simple, and they got like 8 or 9 restaurants on there right now, with more coming all the time. So pay attention to that. Rachel just put a note out there from 94.9 The Bridge that they also have a community announcements page. So again, anytime you've got something going on in whatever form it is, the more people you can let know, the better. So thanks for doing that. I think it is time for our feature presentation. And that would be Mr. Henry Balensifer, who today will be representing his employer, JBT Electro. They have been a stalwart member of our chamber for a long time. They are a huge contributor to the Warrenton community and, frankly, to the state. And they've had some exciting things happen over the years, and today is no different. So I'm gonna invite Henry up on the stage here, and I might just get the heck out of his way. Henry, are you ready to come on? You just need to turn your camera on and your mic on, and you will join me on the stage. There we go. Henry, I'm going to leave it to you unless you need me here.
No, thanks, David. I appreciate it. Yeah, as you said, I'm Henry Balensifer. I'm with JBT Electro. As some may recall, Lektro was under family ownership of the Paulson family since its inception in 1945, and then in 2018 was acquired or sold to a publicly traded company called JBT, John Bean Technologies. So we are now JBT Electro, and we are a product under a much larger family. It was an interesting year for the company. JBT is a multinational, it's got plants and products all across the world. There's 2 divisions. There's Aerotech division, which deals with aviation, and there is Food Tech division, which does basically, if you ever remember the company FMC, Food Machinery Corporation, basically when FMC kind of got broken up, or I guess you could say, demerged, the multiple mergers that created the company, it kind of spurned off 2 items. There was a Food Tech and an Aerotech, and they stayed together. And the FMC side, the Food Tech side, became a major. We manufacture everything that does like 75% of the world's fruit juices. If you had like Tropicana, basically, most of those are done on JBT machines. We make machines that develop pharmaceuticals. We develop the machines that cut and what do you call it? Still early. Bread, and then fry chicken nuggets, all that kind of stuff. Tyson chicken nuggets and all that kind of stuff. So the food side did really well in terms of performance during the whole pandemic when it first hit. Aviation was hit very differently. And Lektro, the local plant here in Warrenton, was actually able to squeak through surprisingly better than anticipated. And that was really due to the fact that we had 2 real major sectors that we served. We have the commercial airlines, and we have general aviation. We also sell to militaries and governments, but the bulk of our business is broken up into commercial airlines and general aviation. What really took our company into where it was before the pandemic, where we were, I think at our peak 92 employees, is airlines. Commercial airlines were just going gangbusters. It was really great. Our business had record years after record years, and then of course the pandemic hit and airlines dried up very quickly. So in 2020, those became almost non-existent. So I have a little presentation, and I'm going to run over some of what a little bit what happened to us here locally, but then I'm going to go into more of national trends because I thought that, I mean, that might be interesting to you, especially in the aviation industry. So let's see here. Sure. All right. So right before the pandemic hit, we had about just over 80 employees, around 84. And after the pandemic hit, after a series of layoffs, we basically just hit over 30. And even then, during 2020, it was pretty scant, and we had skeleton crews working and reduced hours and furloughs for everybody, to ease off some of the costs just to stay alive. It was quite the hit. 2020 saw a complete elimination of airline orders. We didn't ship one airline tug out. General aviation, business aviation kept the business alive, which while that was still good, as much as people would like to say, oh, everyone was flying in business aircraft. Well, an 8600, which is a standard business aviation tug that we build, is not exactly the most. I mean, that thing runs around 30, 35K. An airline tug would cost $250,000. So it takes a lot more of those to make up for a loss that you had for one airline order. We completely, trade shows, print advertising, corporate basically just eviscerated everything that had to do with anything related to marketing, except for they decided to integrate all of our efforts and make marketing digital only during 2020, which was actually a lesson learned from our business unit. And we were proud to lead the pack, so to speak, being the local business unit, being recently acquired, that they were taking lessons from us on that one. So basically a $500,000 marketing budget went completely gone overnight. So when trade shows got canceled everywhere internationally, because we're in 93 countries worldwide, I came up with an idea that had been pitched a couple years ago, actually, and nobody really was buying up onto it until we had no other choice, really. So I said, what if we took a unit and drove it to customers and people who've never heard of us, and just drove across the country in factory direct territory? And so I was gone for most of the summer, basically driving 14,773 miles. During that time, I got mugged in Detroit, Michigan, and almost had my load and truck stolen in Gary, Indiana. That was a fun experience, to put it mildly. But nevertheless, we hit almost 200 customers in a period of time between August and October. And so we're going to do another 2 road shows this year, one with a brand new product that I'm leading up the design efforts on. It's a project of mine for the Air Force. It's a remote controlled aircraft positioner. And then also with the traditional product you see there, that red tug in the middle, which is an 8750CX. So let's go to the national trends. As soon as the pandemic hit, the only place that really improved in terms for compared to the year prior was Mexico as a destination. And that was closer towards basically the start of this year. As more and more people wanted to get out at a gathering or whatever, Mexico became a popular destination. You can see there was a precipitous drop as soon as the pandemic hit, and there's a slow recovery. Now, keep in mind, this is aircraft departures. This isn't total amount of people traveling. This is just what airlines are flying out on. And it's not by specific area, it's just regions of Canada, Latin America, and Pacific. But airports, a lot of people don't really think about airports as a bellwether of an economy, but they really are almost cities on their own. For example, like Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, which is the world's busiest airport in Atlanta, that's got over 70,000 badged employees. That's just the ones with badges. SeaTac, 22,000. City of Warrenton is 6,000 people. Astoria is 10. Clatsop County has 44,000 people in it. So, airports are a pretty dense place that have everything you could imagine. You got firefighters, you got you got first responders, you've got medical services, you've got restaurants, bars. Heck, you even have massage therapists, chaplains. But think of also the the ground side, yeah, fuelers, truck drivers, caterers, mechanics, gate agents, cleaners, electricians, anything that you could use to run a city, they pretty much have it at an airport. So if any of these sectors kind of show anything, it's usually showing up at an airport too. You also have air cargo, airmail, and obviously travel for leisure or business. So when airports are usually doing well, you can usually tell that the economy is generally in a good trend. And so a lot of people kind of balked at why were the airlines getting such a big chunk of money at the beginning of the pandemic. And part of the reason is because airlines oftentimes fly into subsidized areas, places that don't get a ton of traffic, but need access, that maybe the roads are typically impassable during the winter or something like that. Rock Springs, Wyoming comes to mind. This allows those people to be able to get in and out for business or for workforce, and so airlines fly there, but they have a certain amount of subsidization that required to make that basically profitable, to pay for their crews, fuel, the maintenance for those aircraft. But here's a 7-day moving average for onboard passengers per flight. You can see right before the pandemic hit, things were doing really good. Little bump for Christmas, and then dropped. And that's by destination, of course. Another thing is airlines, despite the fact that there was a major, I wouldn't call it a bailout, but a stimulus package that was passed that funded a lot of stuff that they were doing, airlines are still hemorrhaging cash like nobody's business. It's a lot of money to run a plane. As a matter of fact, even when they were parking planes, particularly Boeing 737s on the tarmac in Portland, they'd closed an entire runway down and just filled it full of Alaska's aircraft. Those aircraft, the design of the engine was such that, and this is not uncommon, unfortunately, those engines aren't designed to be down very long. And if they're down very long, then there's valves that can seize up if you don't run them every week. And so every week they'd have to go up there, fuel them up, and start them up just to make sure that the engines continue to go good, and you wouldn't have to do a complete engine overhaul. And if you didn't do that, that valve, I think it was a bleed valve of some sort, it would freeze up. You'd lose both engines in flight. So it was really important to do that kind of maintenance. So that these aircraft, you still got to burn fuel. You still got to send a crew and a maintenance crew to inspect these things. They don't just park them and leave them, particularly with the Boeing aircraft. Of course, aircraft manufacturers who are huge in the West or United States, even Boeing, got hit pretty bad. You probably saw that the KC-46 program was running in delays. The MSAS program with the 37, that grounded it for over a year. The 777s got all sorts of issues. And it's nice to say that, a lot of people say, hey, it's Boeing, it's over in Seattle. But the problem is Boeing has huge roots down here in Oregon, too. They have one of their largest parts factories in Gresham. Boeing is America's largest exporter. That's a big deal. When Boeing gets hit, everybody in the Northwest gets hit, whether we like it or not, because the supply chain that it affects is huge. And so, a lot of companies either rely on Boeing or there's a lot of economic tie into them. So anyways, back to this though, you can see the costs, fuel, of course, being the major one, and how much these airlines are basically just getting hit. And then here's a little bit more interesting chart. Here's the states, and here's how many basically flights, percentage of flights got canceled. So the number is like Oregon's kind of in the middle of the pack. You can see about 41% of our flights got reduced, canceled out between 2020 and 2021. And Washington Reagan was the one that got hit the worst, and Wyoming got the least. Now Wyoming State does a lot of subsidizing of air travel because the state's in very disparate locations, and a lot of times if you've ever been driving through I-80, they can close an interstate at any given time. I got stuck on I-80 during a sleet storm on top of a mountain pass that had a semi-truck, and that was not a great experience. I was literally there for about 24 hours stuck on top of a mountaintop, and I'd never thought that driving 5 miles per hour was too fast. It was literally an ice sheet surrounded by semi-trucks. That was not a great time. And so air travel is really important, particularly for the workforce in that state. But you can kind of see the more disparately populated states had the not so bad reductions. Here's Portland, though. Let's go look a little bit more locally. So 0% would be the change in passengers. 100% meant they canceled service altogether to Portland. Aeromexico, Air Canada, Condor, Elite, and Iceland Air all out, gone, done. Now they may come back, but in general, you'll see there's a huge hit in terms of the percentage of flights that were coming out of and in and out of Portland. Now, cargo. Here's where pivoting really worked for some airlines. It says some country cargo, it's empty, but ignore that, because when I get to the next slide, you'll see what's going on. But a great example was like Sun Country decided to take all their passenger aircraft, because Sun Country primarily deals with flights to tourist destinations, not so much business travel. And they converted basically all their aircraft to freight use. And they were one of the few, if only, airlines that were actually profitable during the pandemic, and that was because they just did cargo. One thing that, a little brief tidbit of aviation history, the Douglas DC-3 back in the early years of aviation, and some of you know what aircraft I'm talking about. If you don't, look it up. Beautiful aircraft, one of my favorites. It was the first aircraft that flew economically enough that you did not have to rely on airmail to make an airline profitable. So a long time ago, it used to require that you took airmail contracts along with passengers in order to make things profitable. Well, that's always been the case, that excess cargo capacity would run with the airlines. That's why you see those LDL containers that get thrown up into the cargo bays, not just your baggage sometimes. But it really became true during the pandemic. Let's see here. Here's so Sun Country Airlines. You see the cargo traffic percentage change. That's because they converted. SkyWest as a regional carrier, and Horizon. Both of those pivoted. They even created these special FAA certified, look like a pizza pouch that you would, heat a pizza in and leave and travel with, for the delivery. Reminded me of Ninja Turtles when I kind of looked at them. And then you put Amazon package in them, buckle them up in the seats. Every square inch that they could put in there, what they did without taking the seats out. In some cases, like Sun Country, they would take out the entire seats, but that was kind of a big job. So, but you can see here's the cargo traffic change. Airmail, Sun Country again up there, ADX up. That was kind of a non-passenger airline that was already running airmail, but they increased. But you can look at all the other ones. Their numbers went down. It's kind of strange, actually. If you look at the total stats, I believe it was airmail actually overall went down out of Portland during the pandemic. Freight wasn't all that much of an increase either. It was kind of strange. A lot of people would say, oh, why wouldn't there be more packages coming through there? Well, I don't know if it was ground transport or what the deal was, but there was a dip. Maritime traffic, and this is just a 30-year trend. I thought I'd add that in there because, well, it's nice to know. It really doesn't pertain to airports, but maritime traffic is a bellwether for oftentimes commodities like grain or oil or future or timber, stuff like that, cars. So you can see that traffic fell slightly. However, with a little inside knowledge, the river's almost never been busier too. So it's in terms of size of ships coming through. So there's a little change in that too, but there's definitely less traffic than there was in the years before. Looking at recovery, we're not looking like a airline recovery is going to show up probably till 2024. You can see here on the right, the passenger traffic change compared to 2019. There's a pessimistic and an optimistic trend. The pessimistic trend in 2024 doesn't show anything close to what we did. I mean, we're still below what we did in 2019. The optimistic shows a slight increase over 2019 and 2024. So if we're looking super optimistic, then there's a better than expected vaccine efficacy, even with the new variants, an accelerated rate of vaccination worldwide. It's not just the United States. Standardization of testing, better than expected economic outlook, business travel resurgence, and that's a thing to note. Everyone wonders, business class travel is a bread and butter for airlines. You know, the coach class, yeah, you can pack them in there, but business class travel is where, and business travel in general is a huge thing for the airlines. And when that drops out, that hurts. You can't, it's more dependable in terms of its traffic forecasting and in terms of its revenue than general tourist traffic. And of course, it makes a lot more money as well. So it's important for business travel to research, so to speak, and it'll be interesting to see how work from home affects that. And then you have, you know, the bear cases that basically virtual meetings displace future travel due to costs or climate considerations. That's a major thing that's on the horizon that airlines are taking a look at, is as these things become a bigger deal, both socially and politically. What does that look like in terms of airline travel? And before I do that, I also want to note, a lot of people want to know about general aviation, which is business travel, business aviation, someone with a private jet, corporate flight departments, a charter or quarter share flying like NetJets, FlexJet. So quarter shares providers like NetJets and FlexJets, they did extremely well. And there was a ton of people who did do business flying at the beginning of the pandemic. And in my roadshow, I noticed that as well. But once we kind of started coming back towards, once it got closer to fall, winter, it's got in October, things started getting really quiet. And so it seemed like in summertime, everyone wanted to get it out. And then as soon as winter came, everything kind of clammed up again. Unfortunately, also corporate aviation departments, while they might have invested in buying a bigger aircraft, they did not fly nearly as many flights. That aircraft became a lot more essential for their business, but it was used less. So it was a weird dynamic that actually occurred that we could see. It seemed like the smallest companies or the small aircraft sectors seemed to be the busiest, and the big stuff seemed to be kind of parked, for lack of a better word. But nevertheless, general aviation was really important to us. And I didn't have a lot of slides on that because it kept us alive, but at the same time, there's not a lot of aggregated statistics for it that I thought you guys would really, find. So overall recovery outlook for us here. We don't expect military spending to increase, at least for new systems like our vehicles, under this current Congress or administration. And most of that could be just a simple fact that the debt spending is going, it's a lot of debt that's being accrued by the government, plus a focus on domestic programs, which is fine. It just often means that new stuff, when the military isn't buying new weapon systems, stuff like that, they typically don't buy a bunch of new support equipment for it either, which is what we manufacture. Airline spending is going to take a long time before it's back to a normal year. We did get a couple airline orders this year, but it's not anything that's going to make us forecast lots of money, so to speak. And general aviation may stagnate depending on how companies and consumers emerge. There's a lot of unknowns about how that's going to go. Work from home and travel and Zoom. I think people eventually will go stir crazy and want to meet in person, but until those virus restrictions get lifted, a lot of countries aren't even allowing people to come in and out. And but in this meantime, in this lull, we're creating new products like the remote-controlled aircraft positioner for the Air Force, which will also have commercial applications. And it's basically a remote-controlled little robot that runs and grabs an aircraft. You don't have to touch the aircraft. It's all automated. And we're also just released a new product that's going out for testing in the field. It's a hydrogen-powered, fuel cell-powered cargo loader, one of our Ranger loaders. And that's really exciting. Lektro, before JBT's takeover, we had a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle built for the Air Force. Because the infrastructure wasn't there at the time, it didn't really take off the ground, but that thing had a lot of power and it was super clean. Its biggest byproduct was water. And unlike lithium batteries or batteries in general, it's probably one of the cleanest energies that you could ever go for. So it's a matter of getting the infrastructure in place to do that. I do see hydrogen becoming a next frontier for cars. And, the Bush administration was the one that pushed it hardest. The Obama administration pushed electric again. the Trump administration didn't push really either of those, but but hydrogen has come a long way since then, and they've gotten it to the point where it's a lot cheaper even to fuel vehicles with hydrogen than it is gasoline or diesel. And so as a matter of time, infrastructure getting upgraded, I suspect that hydrogen will play a bigger role in curbing emissions and providing good power. The problem with electric vehicles is they don't like hills. They burn a ton of power getting up to speed. So and plus the ecological impact of lithium mining, cobalt mining is it's starting to get to a point where it's both the minerals are getting rarer and rarer, and the social impacts are starting to be noticed, I guess you could say. So this is, I think, a good positioning for our company in the future, long-term outlook. And that's one thing I like about JBT is very, very long-term outlooks in what they invest in. And hopefully we'll be able to continue being a leader in the field. So that's kind of what I had. I know it's kind of breezed through it, but there's a lot of information there.
Thank you, Henry. There was a ton of information there. Wow. So you told us about what's coming. Take a look back, if you would, please. Tell the folks that might not know the long-term story of Lektro, how this thing got started in the first place. How did we get such a phenomenal world-class manufacturer right out here on the coast?
Well, we started in Beaverton as Willamette Aircraft and Engine Company in 1945, converting Wilt Paulson, who's now passed, but Wilt Paulson, the founder, he essentially converted military aircraft after World War II into civilian use, like crop dusters and stuff like that. That market dried up pretty quickly, and he pivoted to other stuff. In 1948, he wanted to move closer to where his wife was raised, by Paulson, who's still around and lives in Astoria still. And they moved to Astoria, where he ran a seaplane base in Tide Point, but also he was the first occupant after the government remanded the Astoria-Warrenton airport back into the port's hands, because it had commandeered the airport during World War II as a Navy base, Naval Air Station. And yes, we had blimps that were stationed there too. But and he just kept innovating different products. We did the first cable TV antenna for the first cable TV transmission in the US. We did first electric mink feeder, and he just did all sorts of different little products, electric forklifts. But one kind of stuck, and that was because Wilt had a plane. People kept breaking tow bar or keeping nose landing gears on aircraft because they had tight turning limits with the tow bar. And Wilt and his friend were kind of like, when I back my boat into the water, I don't connect a tow bar to it. So why would I do that with my aircraft? That doesn't make sense to have two pivot points. It's hard enough doing it with one. So they created a thing where they took a mink feeder, turned it around, and put a scoop on it, and that became the world's first towbarless aircraft tug in 1967. It was kind of shelved as a one-off until back in about 1980s. Eric Paulson left college and never came back and took over the company. His dad's was in failing health, and the company was in the 1980s with a big recession, and cheap Japanese imports were just killing American manufacturing. And Eric pivoted the whole company towards building aircraft tugs. And he took a company that was literally on state of bankruptcy, and at the age of, I think it was 19, renegotiated the bank contracts and everything, and made the company into a $35 million a year company. It was pretty miraculous, actually.
Thanks, Henry. Anything else you want people to know? Kevin Leahy asked what your competition is in your sector and what sets Lektro apart or JBT apart.
Yeah, good question. So the innovation that we're doing now is much needed. We were focused so hard on growth and just meeting demand for 2016 to 2019, basically. It was just nothing, 2015 even to 2019. And so product innovations were very gradual as engineering freed up to do that. And so we're investing heavily in new products and technologies that are going to set us apart going into the future. Right now, our reliability And basically the fact that our vehicles have a almost flawless record for safety is what sets us apart. They're easy to maintain, and they're highly reliable, and they just don't quit. I mean, we've got the second tug ever built, 1967, still in operation.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. All right.
But there's a lot of more competitors now, and that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why we're doing this remote control aircraft position. We're a little actually late to the game on that one, but they've never been able to solve the traction issue, and we think we have a pretty good handle on that, having watched everyone else kind of fail trying to break into the market. But now that they're starting to perfect their designs, we're jumping into the sphere to try and bring our expertise.
So you need an unmanned tug to move an unmanned aircraft, or you just want an unmanned tug to move an unmanned aircraft?
So as aircraft get bigger and bigger and bigger, especially for like the Air Force, the hangar facilities haven't changed. Air Force loves to buy, the military loves to buy new weapon systems, but they have 1940s, 50s infrastructure to support it. So the hangar's never getting big. So you need, instead of putting an aircraft straight back into a hangar where it would fit, now they got to move it cockeyed. Can't do that with a tug and tow bar because the tug has to extend beyond the nose. So our 88 series would do that just fine, but the bureaucracy of the Air Force made it such that that wasn't really going to get approved, I guess. We did 14 years of trying to approve and it didn't really work. So we had this remote control aircraft positioner, which is just basically an extension, small little extension of nose gear. And it doesn't take up any space. And now we can maneuver the aircraft into the tightest of tight situations with one person instead of having a wing walker, a brake checker, and a tug operator.
So you have a hoverboard for an airplane.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but unfortunately, all the technologies you're seeing coming out right now are to reduce manpower, and that's an issue that I think, as the workforce continues to not participate in the economy, but even before COVID, there was a workforce shortage, but not necessarily a shortage of people to go to work. And I think that's going to continue to haunt the future of the country and manufacturing in general, as more and more things get automated to replace, as businesses seek to replace the demand, with the scarcity of human resources.
Right. So STEM training is really, really important for our kids, so they've got the ability to sort of repair and develop these tools, right?
Yeah. Well, and career and technical education is even more important to fill the gap, or maybe even maintain that, because like for our company, we don't use computer, like we don't use CNC machining.
Yeah.
Because the cost to set that up and maintain it and to program it and all that really doesn't pencil out for our, we're only going to make 200, 300 vehicles a year. So a little different for last year, but, and so to have all that kind of tooling, Ford, that makes more sense, but the cost versus just using traditional methods, it makes more sense for us to use traditional methods.
Perfect. Okay. And one last question from Katrina. She wants to know, will 2021 see you take another road trip?
Yes, I will be doing another road trip with the RCAP as we basically put it out into free field trials with FBOs for the commercial sector. So after the military stuff is done in April, we'll modify it for commercial use and take her on the road. And I'd probably another 15,000 miles. I read 72 books because of all the travel in 2020. So hoping to beat that record maybe.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Henry, thank you very much. This was exactly what we needed to hear today. So thanks for your work, and thanks for everything that Lektro does for the community.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. We're kind of coming up against the time here. It's about 10 minutes to 9. So I want to bring Bailey up if I can. And Henry, if you can turn your camera off and your mic off, then you'll go back to the tables and we'll get back there. Thanks. Bailey, would you come up and talk a little bit about the banquet that's happening this weekend?
Of course, everyone. If you haven't met me, I'm Bailey Lay. I'm the event coordinator at the chamber here, and I am hard at work event coordinating the banquet, which is going to be held this Saturday, starting at 5:30, and it will be held completely virtually here on our remote platform, but it's going to be different than any event we've held here so far. I mean, we'll start out with an interactive cocktail demonstration from a local bartender, and we have musical guests, the Hackles, coming on. We have our year in review, all these distinguished community awards to give out, and our highly anticipated raffle. So if you haven't registered yet, please go to oldoregon.com and choose a ticket level. Sign on as soon as you can. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, and the ticket levels are fun. So your basic level, you get in, you get to enjoy the event. It'll be totally worth it. That's a $25 ticket. And that's the blast off level, because the theme is the future looks bright. So in keeping with the theme, blast off is the basic level. The next level is orbiter, and orbiter includes your a kit that includes your drinks, right? You got to get your drink makings there. So while we have this bartender, you'll have everything that you have to make that. It'll include a coupon for going out to eat at a couple of member restaurants. You can choose between those, anything on their menu, and some other fun swag in that. And that package, that swag package, will be here. You come to the chamber, pick it up. If you're in the top level, which is the Star Date level, you're really going all out. That's a $75 ticket, and we'll actually deliver that to you. There's a few extra things in that swag packet for you, and there'll actually be dessert that we'll deliver to you as well. That's coming from Peter Pan Market. So it's going to be really, really fun. And I've seen a little bit of the preview of some of the things we have planned, including that Hackles performance. They're phenomenal. And there's a little preview coming out today on Facebook. So watch our site. If you're not following us on Facebook, you need to, because that'll be a kick. So anyway, please join us. We've got a lot of people signed up right now. We'd love to have more. Lots of room there for that on this platform. But again, it's going to look different than what you're seeing right now. It's going to be a real kick. And Bailey and her team have done a fantastic job making this thing work. So cool. Thanks, Bailey.
Thank you.
All right. So announcements. Let's see. I don't have anything in the chat over here. Although, actually, I'm sorry, Katrina did say that they're the Tongue Point Job Corps Center. They do these workforce councils every business and industry council meeting, workforce council. They do that twice a year, I think, typically. And this year we're going to do it. We're going to do it with them so they can do it on this platform. And basically what it is people from business and industry come into Tongue Point. They see how Tongue Point does their training, the tools that they're using, the equipment, the training methods, and they say, look, in our industry, if you were using this tool, or if you did this, or we need this part of it. Basically, it's the community's chance, the business community's chance to go to the trainers and say, here's what we need from your students when they come out. This will make them more employable, and so that's a really useful thing. And since we can't do that live this year, we're going to do it on the Remo platform, and so that'll be on February 5th at 10 a.m. So if you're in an industry or business and want to be part of that, contact Katrina at Tongue Point and let her know that you'd like to be there, and we'll get you in. Our next business after hours is on February 11th, and our next chamber breakfast will be on February 23rd. So put those on your calendar as well. Again, follow us on social media. If you're not getting our weekly Chamber Chatter newsletter, please let me know, and we'll make sure we get you added to that list. That's where we encapsulate everything we've got going on. So whether it's events coming on, whether it's things that the members are doing, whether it's stuff from the state, which is a constant stream right now, that's where that all happens. And you should already know by now that we're staying in the extreme level on Friday. So we'll be the same restrictions, same restaurants closed, indoor recreation and indoor entertainment closed. So we're working with the state, or trying to work with the state, to get them to not have everything be completely closed during those times, because we believe that the evidence shows that that's not necessary, that that's not helping. So we'll keep leaning on them. We're not getting much reaction or traction with them, but we'll keep pushing for that. And so just so you know, that's happening. And let's see, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners will be holding a work session at 11 a.m. on Friday, January 29th. And Katrina put her email in the box there, by the way. And then there's a link in the chat box over there for the annual meeting and banquet info and to sign up. So thank you everybody for being here today. What have I missed? Is there any of my team that needs to jump on here and tell me what I should have done?
I'm thinking, can we give a couple things away?
Yes, let's get some stuff away.
Okay. I think everybody ought to sing you happy birthday too. Tell you the truth.
No. Oh, no.
Happy birthday to you. Barbie's here. She wants to sing happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Okay.
You can sing out there.
Let's move on.
I'll sing. So for my birthday, I'm having this bottle of wine. So
After 5, right?
Yeah,
after 5. Yeah, absolutely.
way too much fun today.
Actually, let's give this one away. This is Cathedral Ridge. Let's see if I can get you Cathedral Ridge. It is a necessity red. And that doesn't say it all for 2020, 2021. Red wine from Cathedral Ridge is an absolute necessity. And I have in my participants list, the winner of this one is... Oh, this one went to Stuart. Stuart, can you stop by and get this? Stuart Emmons.
Yep.
Stuart is a member with his consulting company, and we are. I will have this with your name on it, Stuart, if you would like to stop by and grab that. And then the second one that I have here is a gift certificate to Disa's Thai Kitchen, and they are actually one of the restaurants that you can use your gift certificate with your membership or with your participation in the banquet. So that gift certificate towards your dinner there. Nisa's will be one of the places that we're doing that, and that goes to. Actually goes to Linda Dugan is the winner of that one. So Linda, if you're able to come get that, if you want me to drop it in the mail, I'm not going to drop this in the mail, Stuart. So come get it before I celebrate my birthday with it. And but Linda, if you'll come get this one. So there's a couple things that we gave away. There'll be more stuff. The raffle on Saturday, the stuff in that raffle that businesses have come up with is phenomenal. So we've got some really, really great packages in there. We're also doing our second chance raffle, which will be for a staycation. So definitely fun stuff there. So we're going to wrap up here in just a minute. I'm going to take it back to the tables. So say hi to some people, meet some people you haven't met before, and I will talk to you soon.